It was late at night when a soft knock came at his metal door. Jason sat alone inside his quiet cabin on the edge of the alien settlement. He wasn't expecting anyone, especially not this late. The stars above were dim, and the wind outside howled like it carried voices. Jason stood up, cautious, holding his old flashlight in one hand. Another knock came, slower this time. As if the visitor wasn't sure, he unlocked the door and pulled it open, just a crack at first. What he saw made him freeze. Standing there was a girl, thin, small, and strangely beautiful in a pale way. Her skin was soft gray, and her hair shimmered like silver threads. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, but her expression had no emotion. She wore a long dark coat and simple boots, both covered in dust. Then she spoke, her voice calm and flat, like a machine reading a script. "Hi, I'm the girl assigned to you by local authorities. Use me however you want." Jason blinked, thinking he misheard her. "Wait, what?" he asked, confused and slightly alarmed. She tilted her head slightly, repeating the same words without blinking. "I'm the girl assigned to you by local authorities. Use me however you want." Jason looked left and right, but no one else was around. The path outside his cabin was empty, and no vehicle was in sight. He opened the door wider, staring at her face. "You must be cold. Come in," he said finally, unsure of what else to do. She nodded once and stepped inside, silent. As a shadow, the warmth of the cabin didn't seem to affect her. She stood in the middle of the room, looking straight ahead. Jason walked around her, trying to understand. He had never received any message, warning, or letter about this, and yet here she was, standing like a statue in his living room. He brought her a glass of warm water, which she accepted without a word. She drank it slowly, eyes never leaving his face. "Do you have a name?" Jason asked. She hesitated for the first time, then answered, "No." He frowned, feeling a strange heaviness in the air. "Why were you sent here? What do the local authorities want?" "They did not give that information," she said softly. "I was told to report to you and follow your orders." Jason ran a hand through his hair, thinking hard. This planet was known for strange customs, but this was different. She wasn't acting like a normal person. She wasn't acting like anything human at all. "Sit down," he said gently, pointing to the couch. She obeyed immediately, folding her hands on her lap. He sat across from her, staring. "Do you understand what you just said to me at the door?" "Yes," she replied. "It is my assigned greeting." He felt uneasy, like someone had handed him a weapon without instructions. Outside, the wind howled louder, as if trying to break in. "Did they hurt you?" Jason asked suddenly. "No," she said after a pause, but her voice wavered, just slightly. That was the first sign. Something inside her was not as controlled as she acted. Jason leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You don't have to follow everything I say, you know." She looked surprised for the first time, her eyes blinking quickly. "That goes against my training," she whispered. Jason felt a chill, not from the cold, but from the truth hidden in her words. He stood up and fetched a blanket, handing it to her. "Use this, please." "You're shaking." She accepted it slowly, wrapping herself, then said softly, "Thank you." He watched her carefully as she leaned back into the couch, still stiff but less like a robot now. "Do you remember anything before you were sent here?" She looked at him, then away. "I remember a white room, a voice repeating numbers, and a bright light. That was all." Jason exhaled, realizing this was more serious than he thought. This girl wasn't just assigned, she was created, trained, and dumped, and now she was his responsibility. Outside, snow began to fall lightly on the roof. Inside, the silence between them grew heavier. Jason knew one thing for sure: his quiet life was over. Something strange had entered his home, and behind her blank stare, something else was waking up. Jason woke up to silence. The kind of silence that made the air feel heavy, like the calm before a storm. He sat up in bed listening, hoping maybe the girl had left during the night. But she hadn't. She was sitting in the same exact spot on the couch, eyes open, hands folded neatly in her lap, like she hadn't moved at all, not even to sleep. He rubbed his eyes and got up, walking toward the kitchen. She turned her head slowly to follow his movement, like a camera tracking its subject. "Did you sleep?" he asked. "I don't require rest," she replied. Her voice as calm and cold as the night before. Jason poured himself a cup of hot water, thinking, whatever she wasn't just a girl. She was something else, something programmed. Then he saw the envelope. It hadn't been there last night. He was sure of it. It was plain and brown, sealed tightly, resting right in the center of the kitchen table. He picked it up slowly, turning it over. There were no markings, no stamps. No sender, just one thing written on the front in small block letters. Instructions. Jason opened it carefully, pulling out the thin paper inside. His eyes scanned the words, and the chill in his chest deepened with every line he read. There were 10 rules written, each more disturbing than the last. Rule 1. The assigned girl must remain in your home at all times. Rule 2. Do not allow her contact with other civilians. Rule 5. Do not give her a name unless you are ready for emotional attachment. Rule 7. Do not ask about her past. Rule 9. If she begins to show signs of memory or emotion, notify authorities immediately. Jason stared at the paper, his hand trembling slightly. This wasn't just an experiment. They were testing him too. He folded the paper and shoved it into a drawer. He didn't want her to see it, but when he turned around, she was already standing there, watching him. Did they leave? "You instructions?" she asked softly. Jason forced a smile. "Just some basic stuff, nothing important." She didn't blink, but her head tilted slightly to the side, like she was studying his lie. He changed the subject quickly. "Are you hungry?" "I don't eat food," she replied. "But I can simulate the action." Jason laughed awkwardly. "Let's simulate breakfast then." She sat at the table with perfect posture, silently mimicking every motion he made. He handed her a fork, and she copied how he held it, but she didn't eat anything, just stared at the plate, her eyes strangely focused. "I read somewhere that eating together builds trust," he said, trying to lighten the mood. She looked at him and said, "That may apply to humans." There was a strange sharpness to her tone, like something just under the surface. Jason leaned forward and asked carefully, "Do you feel anything? Sadness, happiness, anger?" She hesitated just for a second, then replied, "I'm not allowed to." That pause, it meant something. Jason nodded slowly. "Okay, well, I won't make you do anything you don't want." Her eyes softened. Slightly, not much, but enough to notice. He smiled. "I think I'll call you Maya." She blinked quickly. "You're giving me a name?" "I don't care what the rules say," Jason said. "You deserve one." "Maya," she whispered. Then again, a little louder, "Maya." Her voice cracked slightly. Just once, like a string pulled too tight. Jason looked at her carefully. "You okay?" She turned her face away. "I don't know." Later that day, he found her standing at the window, watching the snowy field. She whispered something under her breath that he almost didn't hear. It was in a strange language, soft and melodic. When he asked what it meant, she looked startled and said, "Nothing." But it wasn't nothing. Jason knew something inside her was waking up memories, maybe, or feelings long buried, and if the rules were true. That was dangerous. That night, as he went to bed, he heard her voice again from the living room. She wasn't speaking to him, just repeating one word to herself, over and over. "Maya, Maya, Maya," and then he heard her laugh, only once, and very quietly, but it was the most human thing he had heard all day. It began with a scream, not loud, not wild, but soft, like someone choking on a dream. Jason shot up from his bed, heart racing. For a moment, he wasn't sure if he imagined it. Then he heard it again, but this time it was cut short, like a whisper being strangled. He rushed out of the bedroom, the hallway dark except for the glow from the living room. Maya was on the floor, curled up, hands clutching her head like it was about to split open. "Maya!" he shouted, running to her side. She was shaking, her eyes wide and glassy, her mouth opening and closing without sound. Jason didn't know what to do. He held her shoulders gently, trying to calm her. It's okay, I'm here," he said, over and over. Then her body jerked, and he saw something strange, a blinking red light behind her left ear. It was small, hidden under her hair. He had never noticed it before, but now it was flashing fast, like something was malfunctioning. He gently moved her hair aside and saw a tiny metal plate under her skin. A chip, half exposed, its casing cracked. Something inside was sparking tiny. Electric pulses zapping weakly. Jason hesitated for just a second, then made a decision. He ran to his drawer, grabbed the small toolkit, and returned. "Maya, I'm going to try something." "Just hold on," he said. She didn't answer. Just stared up at the ceiling with wide, wet eyes. Jason took a small tool and carefully opened the chip's cover. Smoke drifted out, and a tiny light flickered once, then went out completely. The moment it did, Maya went still, her body relaxed, and her breathing slowed. For a second, Jason thought he'd broken her, but then her lips moved, slowly, carefully, like a child learning to speak. "What happened?" she whispered. Jason leaned closer. "You had a breakdown. Something inside your head started sparking. I remember, a hallway, red lights," she said, voice shaking. Jason looked at her, stunned. "You remember something?" "Yes," she whispered, "but it hurts." He helped her sit up on the couch and brought her water. Maya sipped it slowly, her hands trembling. "I saw people in white coats," she said, eyes distant. "I was strapped down. They called me Subject 9. Jason sat beside her, trying to understand. So she wasn't just assigned, she was designed. She had been someone's experiment, someone's test subject. "I think the chip was blocking your memories," Jason said. Maya nodded slowly, touching the spot behind her ear. "It feels empty now," she said, "but also lighter." Jason felt his anger raise, not at her, but at whoever had done this. They hadn't just erased her past, they had stolen her future too. "Do you want to remember more?" Jason asked. Maya looked unsure. "I don't know, it hurts, but it also feels like waking up." Jason smiled gently. "Then we'll go slow." She leaned her head on his shoulder, surprising him. "I feel safe here," she whispered. Jason stayed still, letting her rest against him, but his mind was spinning. This was bigger than he thought. If she was Subject 9, were there others? Later that night, while Maya slept on the couch, Jason took the broken chip and placed it under his microscope. Tiny wires, burnt circuits, and strange alien symbols covered the inside. One part of it glowed faintly when touched, reacting to heat or emotion maybe. Suddenly, his screen blinked, and words flashed in an unknown language. Then one word translated itself: tracking. Jason's blood ran cold. The chip wasn't just blocking memories, it was also tracking her. He stepped outside and tossed the broken chip as far as he could into the snow. If someone was watching, they wouldn't find her here. Not anymore. As he stood outside, the cold biting his skin, he looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, someone had tried to erase Maya's life. Now she was remembering, little by little. And Jason knew he had to protect her, no matter what came next. Behind him, in the warm cabin, Maya opened her eyes slowly. She whispered one last word before falling back asleep. "Jason, asterisk. The snowman was not there yesterday." Jason saw it from the kitchen window while pouring hot water into 2 mugs. It stood at the edge of the forest, perfectly shaped, smooth, and too symmetrical to be made by a child. No footprints in the snow, no tracks, just the silent white figure staring at the house. Maya walked in quietly, her eyes landing on the same strange shape outside. Her voice was calm, but her fingers clutched the mug too tightly. "They found me," she said. Jason felt a chill crawl down his spine that had nothing to do with the cold. "Who?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "The ones who put the chip in my head," Maya whispered. She placed her mug down and stepped back from the window. "They don't come as soldiers at first," she added. "They come as watchers." Jason wanted to believe it was just a coincidence. Maybe some local kid playing around, but he knew better. Something had changed since the chip was removed. Maya had started remembering, and now, someone out there wanted to make sure she forgot again or disappeared entirely. That night, the snowman was gone. In its place, tire marks led to the end of Jason's driveway. Then nothing, no footsteps, no signs of a person. Just quiet snow and tire tracks that ended too soon. Next day, it happened. Jason was chopping wood when a low hum filled the air. He looked up to see a sleek black transport vehicle descending quietly above the trees. It didn't bear any flags or symbols, just smooth metal and sharp angles. It landed without a sound. And the side door opened. Two figures stepped out, both in gray coats and mirrored helmets. One held a tablet, the other a weapon. "Are you Jason Clark?" The taller one asked, voice flat and filtered through a speaker. Jason wiped sweat from his brow and nodded. "We're here for the girl," the man said, no hesitation. "No friendliness. She's not property," Jason replied firmly. "She is," the man said coldly. "Subject 9 belongs to Project Stillness, as authorized by the Galactic Biotech Accord." Maya stepped outside behind Jason, her voice clear. "I am not Subject 9 anymore." The agents turned toward her, their postures stiffening. "You were not cleared to remove your limiter chip," one of them said. Jason stepped in front of her protectively. "She didn't remove it, I did," he said. "She has rights, she thinks, she feels." The agent holding the tablet tapped it a few times, then looked up. "Mr. Clark, you are now interfering with an active reclamation, punishable under." "Stop," Maya said suddenly. Stepping forward, her eyes weren't afraid now. They were steady, almost glowing. "If I'm just property, why are you scared of me remembering?" The agents didn't answer. Jason noticed the man with the weapon tightening his grip. He moved slowly, placing a hand on Maya's shoulder. "Go back inside," he said quietly. "I'm staying," she replied. "They're not taking me again," Jason faced the agents again, his voice calm but hard. "There are laws here," he said. "This planet allows sanctuary requests, even for off-worlders." "She's not a citizen," the agent snapped. "She's under my guardianship," Jason answered, "and I'm filing her as protected under the Human-Alien Relations Act." The agents paused, clearly not expecting resistance. Finally, one of them muttered, "We'll be back with official clearance." They turned and walked back to their vehicle. The black transport lifted off silently and vanished into the clouds. Jason let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Maya still stood beside him, her hands clenched. "You stalled them," she said quietly. "I bought us time," Jason replied. "But they'll be back." That night they made plans. Jason showed her a hidden room in the cabin, originally a storm shelter, now converted into a secure space. "We'll set up a shielded scanner," he said. "If they come back, we'll know." Maya sat beside him, looking down at her hands. "I wasn't just an experiment," she said softly. "They used me for something darker." Jason didn't push her for more. She would remember when she was ready. But for now, they had to prepare. As the wind howled outside and shadows danced across the wooden walls, Maya looked up at Jason. "If they take me again, I'll forget you," she said, voice shaking. "They won't," Jason replied, placing a hand over hers. "Even if they do," she whispered, "promise you'll help me remember." "I promise," he said. But deep inside, Jason knew next time the authorities wouldn't just knock, they would come to erase her for good, and he would have to be ready to fight for her life. Maya laughed in her sleep for the first time. Jason heard it just before dawn, a soft giggle, quiet and almost childlike. He sat up, confused, staring at her resting on the couch, her lips curved slightly. Her body relaxed. It wasn't a glitch. It wasn't programming, it was real. He didn't wake her, just watched silently. Something had changed inside her since they drove the agents away. The girl who once spoke like a machine now hummed softly in her dreams. And Jason knew, without doubt, the human part of her was growing stronger, When she woke up, she blinked at him slowly. I saw colors, she said, but not like before. Jason tilted his head. What kind of colors? Warm ones, she whispered. They felt like safety. Jason smiled. You had a dream. I didn't think I could, she replied, eyes wide. That day, Jason didn't make any plans to run. Instead, he decided to help her really live, for once. He handed her an old music player. Full of Earth songs, she stared at it like it was a puzzle, then put the headphones on. When the music started, her mouth opened slightly in surprise. She closed her eyes, listening quietly, then said, "Why does this sound make my chest feel full?" Jason chuckled. That's music, Maya, and what you're feeling is called emotion. Later, he brought out a set of paints he hadn't touched in years. She dipped her fingers in red, then blue, then yellow. She pressed her hand on paper, leaving behind messy shapes. Jason watched her eyes light up, her face softening as colors mixed under her touch. This is fun, she said, amazed. You're allowed to have fun, he told her. As they painted, Maya paused suddenly and looked at him. You never asked what I was used for, she said quietly. Jason lowered his brush. Because I figured you'd tell me when you were ready. She nodded slowly, dipping her fingers into black paint this time. I was made to obey, she said. They tested how much pain I could feel without breaking. Jason's chest tightened, but he didn't interrupt. They gave us numbers, not names, she continued. I was 9, but others came before me. She stared at the dark paint spreading across the paper like a shadow. Some didn't survive, she whispered. I think I wasn't supposed to either. Jason reached over and gently wiped her hand clean with a soft cloth. You survived because you were stronger than they expected, he said. She looked up, her eyes glossy. Then why do I feel weak now? She asked. Because strong people are the ones who let themselves feel, he said. That night, she helped him cook. She didn't need to eat, but she wanted to learn. She chopped vegetables too fast, dropped spoons, and burned her fingers once. But she laughed through it all, a real laugh this time, light and clear. Jason found himself laughing with her, even when the stew boiled over. She sat down at the table, holding a spoon awkwardly. Do I look normal now? She asked with a shy smile. You look like someone discovering the world, he said, and that's better than normal. As the fire crackled, Maya leaned her head against the window glass, watching the stars. Do you think the others, like me, ever escaped? She asked softly. Jason stayed silent for a moment, then said, I don't know, but I hope so. I want to find them, she whispered. Not just for them, but for me too, he nodded, placing the blanket around her shoulders. Then we'll find them together. Outside, the wind carried no threats that night, only silence inside. Something invisible and powerful wrapped around them, trust, care, and something slowly becoming love. Maya looked at the drawing she had made earlier, 2 stick figures holding hands beneath a big sun. I've never drawn anything before, she said. Jason grinned. You've already done more today than most people do in a year. She smiled and placed the drawing above the fireplace, like it was treasure, and for her, it was. Because for the first time in her life, Maya wasn't just surviving, she was becoming someone new. Someone real, someone free. Asterisk, asterisk. The drawing was missing. Jason noticed it first. The little picture Maya had taped above the fireplace gone. He looked around, thinking maybe it had fallen. But there were no loose papers on the floor, no wind, no footprints, just silence. And in the center of that silence, danger. Maya, he called, his voice tighter than he wanted. She came out of the bedroom, hair messy, blinking from sleep. Jason pointed at the empty spot on the wall. She froze. I didn't move it, she whispered. They searched the cabin together. Every corner, every drawer, but the picture was nowhere. What they found instead was far worse. Near the back window, half-covered footprints in the snow, leading away. Someone had been inside. Jason's heart pounded. They hadn't broken the lock, hadn't shattered glass. Whoever came knew exactly what they wanted, and now they had proof Maya was still here, still alive. Still feeling, she stepped back from the window, hugging her arms. "They'll erase me," she said. "That's what they do when the product malfunctions." "You're not a product," Jason said firmly. "They don't care," she replied. "And now they know I dream, laugh, feel." Jason grabbed his emergency pack. "We're leaving," he said. Maya blinked. "Where will we go?" He zipped the bag, then looked at her. "Somewhere they won't follow." They moved fast, stuffing only essentials, rations, tools, a small solar map. Jason opened the trapdoor leading to the shelter below the cabin. Inside was a pod, a small, sleek escape vehicle left over from his military days. He had never planned to use it. Now it was their only chance. But there was one problem. The pod had a tracker 2-1 linked to his identity. If they used it, the authorities would know. Maya stepped beside him, eyes determined. "I can shut it down," she said. Jason stared. "How?" She placed her hand on the pod's core panel. "Some things they put in me weren't meant to stay asleep," she whispered. Lights flickered under her fingers, codes flashing across the display. Jason watched as the pod's core dimmed. "I've disabled the beacon," Maya said, swaying slightly. Jason caught her before she fell. "You okay?" "Too much energy," she said. But it worked. They had 5 hours before the next satellite sweep, enough time to make it beyond the scanning zone. Jason helped her into the pod, strapping her in carefully. He paused, his hand on her shoulder. "You ready?" "No," she said honestly. "But I want to live," Jason smiled. "Good answer." The pod launched with a low hum, sliding silently across the snow like a ghost. They passed trees, rocks, and frozen hills. Maya leaned her head back, her eyes half closed. "Do you think I'll ever be just a person?" she asked. "You already are," Jason replied. "You're more human than anyone I know." Hours passed, and darkness followed them. They reached the mountains, a hidden valley Jason once explored during his patrol years. No drones flew here. No signals reached. It was untouched, unwanted, perfect. Jason set up a small camp near a cave entrance. He wrapped Maya in thermal blankets and built a fire. She watched him quietly, then said, "I'm scared." "That's good," Jason said. "It means you want to keep going." She looked at the stars above, her voice quiet. "What if they find us again?" Jason stared at the flames. "Then we don't run, we fight." Maya nodded slowly, her hands gripping his coat. "Then teach me," she said. "Teach me how to fight." That night, they planned their next steps, not just how to hide, but how to take back control. Maya remembered a name, Dr. Velen, the one who led her program. He worked from a secret facility deep in Sector 9. "If we go there, we'll find the others," she said. "And we'll end it." Jason didn't argue. They had run long enough. It was time to turn around. The wind howled across the mountains. But inside the cave, 2 hearts beat together, not with fear, but with fire. For the first time, Maya wasn't just escaping. She was preparing, because what they took from her, her past, her voice, her right to feel, she was going to take back, and she wouldn't be alone. She stood at the edge of the ruined building, holding a flower. It was small, purple, and trembling in her hand. It had grown through the cracks of a broken lab floor, life blooming where suffering once ruled. Maya bent down and whispered to it, "You survived too." 3 weeks had passed since they stormed the hidden facility. The fight had been fast and furious. Jason's old skills came alive. Maya's hidden abilities awakened fully. They didn't just escape this time. They freed the others. Dozens of blank-eyed girls just like her, silent and afraid. But when Maya walked into the holding chamber, they all looked up. One by one, they stood, as if something inside them recognized her. She wasn't Subject 9 anymore. She was their voice, their leader, their hope. Dr. Velen had begged for mercy. Jason didn't even raise his gun. Maya stepped forward, face calm, voice steady. "You stole everything from us," she said. "And now we're taking it back." She didn't strike him, she let him watch as his creation walked away free. That was the punishment he feared most. Now the lab was silent, the test chambers empty. Maya placed the flower near a broken scanner. Jason walked up beside her, placing his hand gently on her back. "They're safe now," he said, "because of you." Maya looked at the horizon, where the first light of morning touched the snow. "I want to leave this name behind," she said softly. Jason blinked. "You mean Maya?" She shook her head. "No." Subject 9. "Maya was the first name someone gave me with kindness," she added. "But now I want to choose my own." They returned to the mountain valley, now a safe zone for the rescued girls. Tents became cabins, and cabins became homes. Jason and Maya worked together to build something new. She taught the others how to paint, how to read, how to smile. Some still didn't speak, but that was okay. Healing didn't need sound, it only needed time. One evening, as the stars came out, Maya sat by the fire with Jason. The others were laughing nearby, playing a game with sticks and stones. Jason handed her a small notebook. Inside were names written in her handwriting, but crossed out again and again. "I keep trying," she said with a nervous smile, "but nothing feels right." Jason took a breath. "Then don't force it. Maybe it'll find you instead." He added. She smiled. "Maybe." Then a little girl from the rescued group ran up, breathless. She tugged on Maya's sleeve and whispered, "What's your real name?" Maya froze, then smiled softly. "I don't have one yet," she replied, "but I think I'm close." That night, she dreamed again. In the dream, she stood in a field full of purple flowers. "The same kind she found at the lab," they whispered to her in voices she couldn't understand. But one word kept echoing: Leora. She woke up at sunrise, heart beating fast. Jason was already outside, fixing one of the solar panels. She walked up to him and said, "I think I found it." He turned, smiling. "Your name?" She nodded, eyes bright. "Leora," she said. "It means light in an old Earth language." Jason repeated it slowly. "Leora, it fits you," he said. "You brought light into a place built on darkness." From that day forward, she was no longer Maya, no longer Subject 9. She was Leora, the girl who chose her own name, her own life, her own future. Years later, her story would spread across galaxies, not as a report or warning, but as inspiration. The girl who was built to obey had learned to love, to lead, and to live. She walked the village each day, helping others grow. Sometimes she still heard echoes of the past in her sleep, but they didn't scare her anymore. They were reminders, not of what she was, but of how far she had come. And every night, before sleeping, she whispered the same promise to herself. "I am not a machine, not a weapon, not a number. I am Leora, and I am free."